Hey, Queens! I'm Alyssa,
I'm Stephanie,
and together we bring you Flower Dreams.
and Trauma Queens. Today's topic we have chosen is boundaries.
Boundaries is such an important topic, and I've realized that over the past couple weeks, definitely. We've just been dealing with something kind of personal, and it has showed me that I do need boundaries in my life, more so than what I've set. I do have a couple boundaries, but definitely not as many as what I needed. Um, I feel like boundaries were not something that was discussed, unless it was being made fun of. So it's just kind of an important topic, I think, to bring awareness to and to just say, hey, it's okay. Like, you can say no. No is not a bad word. And I understand for people pleasers that it feels like the worst thing ever. But if you don't put yourself first, who's going to?
And let's face it, us people pleasers, we didn't get there by setting boundaries. We got there by not ever setting boundaries. So we automatically just say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. We don't think twice about how it's going to affect us.
And in the end, I think it just made me like a really angry person.
Mm-hmm.
Because and it caused me to lash out at people that I shouldn't have been lashing out at because I wasn't setting proper boundaries.
Yep.
So I think that's part of the reason that, I've been learning. I'm still not very good at it, but I have been learning to set boundaries. And I would say in my work life for sure. So it can be something as simple as, can you come in on your day off? And now I feel comfortable enough to say, no, I'd rather not. And you can be nice about it. Like,
Exactly.
but that's one way that I've learned to set boundaries. And I'm not saying like never. If, I care a lot about the people that I work with. And so, if they need me, I'm going to be there. But for the most part, it's my time because days off are really important.
Mm-hmm.
So, I will say another thing in my adult life where my boundaries, I guess you can say, had been not respected was I had a certain family member who, due to many circumstances, many, and many chances, I've given them many chances, I had told another family member that I was not comfortable being around them. And, that I didn't know when I'd be comfortable being around them, but not anytime soon. Well, then said family member messages me and is like, we'd all like to get together and, so and so is going to be there, but it'll just be me and this person. And I'm like, it put me in a really difficult position because it made me feel really guilty. And I remember when it happened and I was, venting to Stephanie and I was like, like I just feel so much guilt. And she helped me through that. But it's when it boils down, my boundary was not respected at all.
Nope.
And I just cannot and will not continue to allow that in my life. And I hope that you all out there that are watching this, I hope you guys can set boundaries or can start setting boundaries because of what we're sharing with you. Because it is important. And it physically, mentally for yourself, so important.
Very important. And I would like to add that it can be anyone in your life, whether it be a mom and dad, a brother, or sister, it doesn't matter. It is okay to set boundaries because I know I've heard so many people say, but I can't do that. That's my mom. Or, oh no, I could never do that. That's my grandma. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the person is. It's okay. And it's actually very healthy to set boundaries and expect those people to respect those boundaries. But on the same token, you also have to respect others' boundaries as well.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It's not only important to educate yourself and understand boundaries for yourself, but also so you can respect and support the other people in your life.
Yep.
If you don't understand boundaries, how are you supposed to be able to respect somebody else's boundaries? You know?
Exactly. So it's something that we should all strive to do better in. One of the biggest things for me, as far as my adult life goes, for setting boundaries, has become since becoming a mother. Um, I didn't really think too much of it at the very beginning, like because I was all in my baby bubble and and all of that. But as my children are growing up and they're getting bigger and they're doing more things, I have had to set boundaries with family members and things like that because I have chosen to go a different route in my parenting, and I have chosen to do gentle parenting. And
That
I
was
know,
unheard of
yeah,
when
that's
we
what I was
were
going to
growing
say. I
up.
know that that is such a thing that people are, laughing at these days, especially. But it's not what people think it is. It's a whole thing, and that could be a whole nother topic. But if you know anything about gentle parenting, then you probably know what I'm dealing with. With the, oh, you're going to raise brats, or, you're going to raise little disrespectful kids who aren't going to respect their elders and all this stuff. And it's like, if you don't truly understand what all goes into gentle parenting, then you have no right to speak on it, because it is hard. It is very hard to break generational curses. It is very hard to withstand the insults and the laughs and the scoffs that you get from family members that that you love and adore. Um it is it's unimaginable the things that I have heard from people. And despite all of that, I continue raising my children the way that I see fit, because at the end of the day, they're not responsible for my children. I am. Me and my husband are, and we're on the same page, and that's all that matters. And that has been very hard with boundaries because you've got all these people who think, well, I raised my kids this way and they're just fine. Well, you're going to raise your kids, or you raised your kids, and I'm going to raise my kids the way that I want to, and I should be respected in that. But unfortunately, that's not the way it goes. And, people like Alyssa and, my sister and things like that, they have respected me in every way. And other people have too. But I have received disrespect about my boundaries. And if someone crosses my boundaries that I have placed as a parent, that is that is the biggest thing you can do. Because it's very important that my boundaries are respected, because I'm also teaching my children to respect each other's boundaries and
Mhm.
our boundaries, and I'm teaching them how to set boundaries, because not enough importance was placed on boundaries as a child. So I want my children to know how important they are. I've even heard my daughter look at her brother and say, "Oh no, Bubby, you've just crossed my boundary." And it's funny to hear such little kids saying those words, but at the same time, it makes me really proud to know that they know what boundaries are and that they are okay placing them already at such young ages. I have such high hopes for their future, that they will not grow up to be people pleasers and and stuff like that, that they will have a bright future ahead of them because they will know how to set boundaries with people.
And I feel really fortunate to just be living in a time where it is talked about so much. Like there are so many social media platforms, so many creators out there that are promoting boundaries and gentle parenting and just all around love and acceptance. And I that's such a beautiful thing to me, you know.
It really is, and that's why we have picked the topics we have picked, and why we will pick the future topics. They Each topic that we pick, it always means something to us. We're not just talking to be talking. We are talking on personal experiences and generalized experiences. We know what it's like to go through certain things, and that's why we want to share it with all of you.
Every topic we bring up is out of love.
Definitely.
So, as you kind of ended your, motherhood thing, we do kind of want to touch on our childhood and how lack of boundaries affected us into our adult life. Um, I think just simply how boundaries were not talked about when we were kids. I think that as we're growing up, we didn't understand how important it was to, which I can't speak for her, but I
No, I
know,
wholeheartedly agree.
right, right. So for me, especially, it was just so hard for me because one of the biggest lessons I had to teach myself is there is a big difference between being disrespectful and setting a boundary.
Agreed.
Huge difference. You
Mhm.
can be completely respectful with someone and just be like, that crosses a boundary for me. Or I'm going to stick to this. And it can be really hard to stick to, what you want for your life and choices that you have made. Even if it's something simple, like it can
Yeah.
be really hard to stick to it. But it's so, so important.
It is because you feel guilty. You know, when you do set a boundary with someone and you have to stick to it, you feel guilty about it, and that's what I think is the biggest problem, is that we let our guilt control us because that's what we've done our whole lives, or at least I have.
Mhm.
You know, I have let my guilt of not hurting people's feelings or making them think less of me or whatever it may be, I've let that control me my whole life, to the point where into my adult life I was saying yes to going here or doing this, even though deep down I hated the very thought of it. But I would do it because I hated even more thinking that so and so would think I was a bad person or that I didn't love them anymore, you know? And that's crazy to think like that. It really is. Like, looking back, I can see the things that I've done and I'm thinking, why did you do that? But in the moment and without proper education on these certain things, you don't know any better. So I think it's very important that more people are talking about things like this these days.
I'm just thinking of a big one during, like, childhood. There were certain, not mentioning any names or anything, but I do kind of feel like we didn't have a say so on like who we were around. Like if
Yes.
someone made us uncomfortable, I don't even really feel like we were asked.
No.
Like, hey, does this person make you uncomfortable? Or for instance, I wouldn't say that I was really forced into like hugging people or anything, but I also didn't have someone sitting there telling me, hey, if you don't want a hug, you do not have to hug that person. Don't
Mhm.
do it just to be polite. Because I remember like holidays
Mhm.
where, and don't get me wrong, I have, for the most part, a wonderful family. But I think in everybody's families, there are those family members that you're just not comfortable with. And whether that be, because of their behaviors, or whether that be because you're only seeing them once a year as a
Mhm.
kid, it doesn't matter. I just think that if more, if it had been stressed more, hey, it's your body. If you don't want this person to hug you, you don't have to do that. If you don't want to be around this person, hey, maybe we'll not go at all.
Exactly.
And it's just none of that ever happened.
Mm-mm. No, and you can attest to what I'm doing with my children as far as letting them set their own boundaries, because there have been times where Lissy will be, be hanging out together and she'll go to leave or we'll go to leave and I'll be like, go tell Auntie Lissy bye. And most of the time they go and give her a hug and kiss. They'll tell her they love her and bye and all that. But there are some days maybe they're in a bad mood or they just don't feel like it, they will literally look right at her and say, I don't want to give you a hug today. And Lissy will respectfully say, okay, buddy, or okay, sissy, and she leaves it at that. And that's her respecting their boundaries, even as young as they are.
I remember we had went to go see some Christmas lights, and it was really cold out, and it was getting close to bedtime for the kids, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna say, and they were kind of acting up, like just normal kid stuff. Like they were kind of like wrestling around with each other and just running and not listening. And then they didn't want to leave, and then they wanted to spend the night with me, but I had to work the next day, so they got upset about that. So my boyfriend, he's amazing with kids. He's just an overall amazing person, but he sat down with my niece and he talked to her, and she surprisingly, completely
Mm-hmm.
surprisingly, because usually when she's like that, you can't talk to her. So I had kind of like let her, have her little fit, but he stopped and talked to her, and I was like, "Are you sure that's a good idea? She can be a little, she
Good
can be a
luck.
little mean." But we look back, and she's hugging him.
Yeah, I'll
Cause
never
she's like,
forget
yeah, she's like giving him this big hug, and I'm like, well, he must have got through to her.
it.
So then her and her brother went and got in, their parents' car, and we're all, getting ready to part ways. And I was like, okay, guys, come tell Auntie Lissy bye. And they were like, we already hugged. And they said, my boyfriend. And I was like, oh, okay, but what about me? And then my niece proceeded to slam the car door in my face. And it made me kind of upset, I'm not gonna lie. But I proceeded to open the door. And also in my head, I was like, Alyssa, you're an adult. Like, they have big emotions. They cannot control this. So don't you dare be mean to those kids.
Yeah.
So I opened the door and I was like, Auntie Lissy loves you very much, even though you're being mean right now. So yeah, it's simple things like that. And I think sometimes it is easy to get your feelings hurt,
Mm-hmm. It is.
with a kid. And it's easy to, I don't know, sometimes even maybe want to sit there and argue with them. But in
Mm-hmm.
your head, you have to think like,
how do you think they're feeling right now? Like
Exactly.
something's got to be going on in there to make them, be acting out this way. So,
And that was another thing too. As children, I just feel like boundaries, like not wanting to talk.
mm, yeah. Now that you mention that, that's big. Yeah,
I just thought of that. But I mean, do you ever think about like whenever, and maybe we were completely in the wrong, like being disrespectful, like as teenagers, or
possibly.
right. I'm not saying that we were perfect. I am not saying
Mm-mm.
that we never did anything wrong. We definitely did.
Yeah.
We definitely did. But I don't feel like we could set boundaries. Like I don't feel like we could go to our room and just be like, I don't want to talk.
Exactly, because there were times where I had these big feelings, but I really didn't know what was going on or how to express them. So sometimes I just wanted to go in my room and shut my door. But as soon as I did, it was, what's wrong, Stephanie? Why aren't you coming out here? What's wrong? Why aren't you talking? And if I literally would just say, I don't know what's going on. I don't feel like talking right now. I automatically got accused of being disrespectful
Mm-hmm.
or, that I was being mean. But in reality, I was just trying to say, I need some space. Like, I need some time right now to gather my thoughts, figure out what's going on because I didn't want to lash out at the wrong person. And that's what I feel like a lot of people drive their kids and loved ones to is because they won't give them space. They won't respect their boundary,
Mm-hmm.
and that happens a lot with kids, especially. They're always jumping on you and wanting your attention and stuff. And it's like, that's why it's important to set boundaries. Everyone, no matter their age, needs boundaries and needs space.
Yeah, we want to reach, everybody out there, whether you are single or whether you don't have kids. We just want to stress the importance of respecting boundaries and, whether it be with your child, or your boyfriend or your mom or your dad. It's
Exactly.
all really important, but especially, as we were saying with children, we don't think about that. I've been guilty of not thinking about it with
Mm-hmm.
kids. I'm sure you have too.
Yep.
Like you don't think like, oh, they need boundaries. They're 5. Like, but they
Exactly.
do because you're
Every age.
preparing them.
Mm-hmm.
You are preparing a person
Yep. To be
who
an adult one day.
right, who you want to be a healthy and happy and thriving adult.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want them to thrive, you need to give them the tools.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
I'm not, I'm not a mom yet, but I feel that very deeply. I think it's very important to give them the tools so they can thrive and just be happy.
It is. And to know if you're out there and you don't have a child, to know that any person you're around, no matter their age, like Alyssa here, she's not a mom yet, but she already has the tools necessary to give her future children. And she also uses those tools on her niece and nephew, my children. So even if you don't have children, it's important to do it with anyone out there, no matter their age, whether it be a child or an adult. You need to respect their boundaries.
Yeah, and that's a really good feeling to know that, I have not all the tools, but at least some of them to be a little
Hmm.
bit more understanding and to what I feel like we stress a lot on this channel, break generational curses.
Yes.
So I think that's about all we have for you this week. But as always, Queens, stay safe
Stay classy,
and
and we'll
we'll see
see you
you
next
next
week.
week.
Don't forget to subscribe and also throw some comments in there if you want. We're always welcome to, if you have a certain topic you want to speak about, us to speak about, or if you just have anything to say to us, feel free to comment below.
Yeah, we're definitely interested in hearing what you guys want us to talk about.